Well, our next guest has a long and impressive list of achievements. Megyn Kelly is a journalist, lawyer and political commentator. She's also made Time magazine's list of 100 most influential people and had her story portrayed by Charlize Theron in the movie Bombshell.
She is a woman who's not afraid to speak her mind and take on the most powerful people in the world.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. For the record, it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like the temperament of a man we should elect as president?
It was 2015 and Megyn Kelly took on Donald Trump during his campaign to become president. He did not react kindly.
What I say is what I say. And honestly, Megyn, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.
But he went on to do exactly that with repeated public attacks on the broadcaster. The pair's clash featured in the 2019 Hollywood movie Bombshell, with Kelly played by Charlize Theron. Bombshell was a huge movie hit based on an awful reality, the true story of a sexual harassment scandal at America's Fox News. Megyn Kelly was one of multiple women affected, and in part it led to this.
After more than a dozen years at Fox News, I have decided to pursue a new challenge.
Kelly left Fox in 2017 and briefly joined NBC. She's just launched her own media company and podcast, The Megyn Kelly Show, promising conversations without an agenda or having to toe a company line.
And we are thrilled to say we are joined now by Megyn Kelly from New York. Megyn, good morning. An absolute privilege to have you on Sunrise. Your courageous reporting has really instigated so much important and lasting cultural change. Perhaps we could start with the run-in with Donald Trump. You've said from that moment forward your life hasn't been the same. Exactly how has it changed?
Well, I mean, after he made those comments that followed the debate about, blood coming out of my wherever, just nothing was the same since. My phone blew up. My life blew up. He stayed on it for so long. I had security guards with me for 9 months, strangers coming up to me on the street, strange men coming to our apartment in the middle of the night. And it got very dangerous, and he kept stoking the fire. And it was hard as a journalist to keep covering him every night and try to put my personal feelings about what was going on to the side, but I did it. It's one of the reasons I have such disdain for people reporters now openly showing how much they hate Trump, because you have to manage your feelings about the people you cover. At least that's how it used to be in journalism. So that just sort of blew things up. And then, the thing with Roger Ailes at Fox going down, that was the next year. And it just seems like, I don't know, my life was sort of steady, and then I upended the table, and a lot of consternation came my way, but so did a lot of growth and hopefully wisdom.
Good on you. Journalism has changed, that's for sure. But I think a lot of people sit at home and they yell at the television and they say, take him on, Trump, Trump this and Trump that. But when you are sitting there on television, doing these interviews, sitting there in a room with a man like Donald Trump, it could be quite intimidating for a woman, particularly, but for anybody. How do you sort of where do you go to in yourself to challenge someone like that personality type? And do you talk to him these days?
Yeah, he and I are fine now. After he kept going for 9 months, finally I went to Trump Tower, and it was actually a very funny moment because I walked in and the doorman of Trump Tower was like, "Oh." And I went upstairs, and Trump, you know how Trump is. Like, if he thinks you like him, he's totally magnanimous. If he thinks you don't like him, he does to you what he did to me for those 9 months. But so as soon as I showed up there, it was like instantly forgiven. And we got along just fine ever since. And all I said to him at Trump Tower was, can we stop the nonsense now? You kicked me around for long enough. Let's move on. And it was all good. But in terms of your first question, because I have young women ask me this a lot, and I do think the answer is practice. So I practiced law for almost 10 years prior to becoming a journalist. And when I first had scary confrontations as a lawyer in a deposition in a courtroom with a judge, my heart would beat so fast I felt like people could see it. And the only way through that feeling to like get it to go away is to just do more and more and more of it, as scary as it may feel. And that's what prepares you for those big moments, ultimately, whether it's the debate stage or the corporate boardroom.
I appreciate that answer. I'm taking that on board, Megan. I'm making notes here. I will do it.
Megan, can we talk about the movie Bombshell? It's really unimaginable to people who haven't, I guess, lived through it to know what it must have been like for you to have to relive that time in your life.
Mm-hmm. Well, my number one feeling in watching it, because I watched it as a consumer, you know, I had nothing to do with the movie, so I took it in just as everyone else took it in, as just a viewer in the theater, was, well, there's a reason I repressed all of these events. You know, it's like, I really didn't care to remember most of them. And think about it. Think about if somebody took one of the most traumatic years of your life, made a movie out of it, and keep in mind the year only happened a couple of years ago. It's not like it happened 30 years ago. And put it on the big screen. And then you had to sit and watch it with someone playing you who, at least in the movie, looked just like you. And she looked just that scene right there in the elevator was like that looked just like me. So it was bizarre and it was emotional. I cried the entire time I watched the movie the first time.
Yeah, that casting was, we all said that here in Australia too. Charlize Theron looked so like you. But do you think movies like this one, where the average person gets to see what actually goes on in newsroom, what goes on in politics, do you think that will make a change to how women are treated, not just in the media? I know I speak for the Australian media. There's still a lot of sexism in the media and in politics. Yeah. Will that is the change starting to happen, do you think, in how women are treated?
I think so. I think we have to be careful, though, because the Me Too movement, to the extent I was part of it, I think really needs to have guardrails in place. It's good we're speaking up. We shouldn't let ourselves be harassed or abused at the workplace or anywhere else. But men deserve due process. And the movement in some cases has gotten out of hand with this believe all women nonsense people say here in the States. Some women lie and don't deserve to be believed. And men aren't guilty just because somebody accuses them. And, you know, at Fox, they hired outside counsel. They had a full, fair investigation. And that's why Roger Ailes ultimately got kicked out of the company. But we have to keep in mind that not every woman is a truth teller just because she's a woman. It's not that most women lie. Most tell the truth, I think, on this subject. But we need to keep that in mind. I do think that more than anything, it's a roadmap for women on supporting other women, because news is a very competitive industry. A lot of women look at it as zero sum. You know, someone gets promoted, it's at your expense. And just for what it's worth, you know, Gretchen Carlson and I, there's really no love lost between us. We weren't close. I don't think we really cared for each other that much. But I did really care about Roger. And I wasn't really thrilled about coming forward to say, you know what, there actually might be an issue with him that you guys need to look into, because I felt loyal to him and not to her. And that the movie accurately portrays that. And I think a lot of women may go through that, where their boss is paying their salary, their boss has been good to them after the moment where they tried something and it didn't work out. And maybe they don't want to support the other women coming forward. Maybe they don't like them. But it's not about that. It's about protecting the workplace and the other women who are powerless to speak up.
Really well said. Megan, if we could turn to current events. We've just been watching the US election campaign with interest, with a lot of surprise at times. What's your take? Who do you think will win?
Well, I mean, I think if you're at the horse race, you've got to put your money on Biden, given the polls. But I will say, it's like watching basketball here in America. I sit and I watch it with my husband, and what I've realized is that you don't need to watch the whole basketball game. You only need to watch the last 2 minutes. Everything else is a waste. All the exciting stuff happens the last 2 minutes. All that worry you had prior is waste. And I think that's kind of true right now in the American election. And we're getting to the 2-minute mark where you really have to pay attention. The polls are going to tighten. And Trump does have a secret vote. There's no question. Everyone here has been told that they're a bigot or a sexist or a transphobe or a racist or a xenophobe if they like Trump, which isn't true. So they're smart enough not to go around and declare it when the pollsters call them, especially these suburban women, all of whom seem to be flocking to Biden. I know a lot of them here in New York on the Upper West Side, which is very liberal. Women aren't running around with Trump flags or MAGA hats. but they're getting ready to vote for Trump. So don't count him out.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Meghan, I followed your career very closely. Just quickly, you've got a new media company and a podcast, The Megyn Kelly Show. It promises to be free of agendas and corporate overlords. How's that going to play out? Sounds fun.
Kind of awesome, I have to say, Sam. It's nice not having a boss. I'm the boss. I have full editorial control. Whatever winds up on the show is because I said it should be there. And I'm just sick of being afraid. I mean, not me personally, but just us as a country. And maybe it's happening in Australia too, where there's just constant shaming for the attempt to discuss tough subjects. Suddenly, certain subjects are considered third-rail subjects that a polite person wouldn't discuss, or if you have any questions about it or disagreements with it, you're awful. And that's baloney, bull. That's you're not awful. These are difficult subjects that we're wrestling with, from race to gender, or whether it's Trump. And we're allowed to say how we feel, even if it's considered unorthodox or heterodox, even if it's considered controversial. The way forward through all this difficulty is to talk honestly about how you feel and the questions you have. That's the only way you get people to buy in. And it's really consistent with our principle as a country, which is the full and free exchange of ideas.
Yes. Megyn Kelly, I like the cut of your jib. It has been really good to meet you today. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. All the best with the podcast.
Thank you so much. Good to see you guys.
Okay. What a woman.
Isn't she fantastic?
Very brave. I like that.